Hi friends, I have a story for you. So, I grew up dealing with endometriosis. When I was 15 years old, I was diagnosed when I started having out of control painful periods and horrible pelvic pain. I saw an OBGYN who told me there was no cure and that I needed to go through different therapies to try to help keep it under control. I was fortunate enough to be able to conceive, obviously, and have 5 beautiful babies. After my first, I had actually received an episiotomy because I didn't really know that it's better not to. And I had an evaluation by an OBGYN afterward who told me that I would need surgery after I was done having all my kids to correct what had been done to my perineum. And I just had to kind of deal with it in the meantime. And I kind of said, okay, that's just part of mom life, I guess. When I was pregnant with my second, I got a rib out of place. My son pushed his butt under my ribs on one side, and so that my rib cage actually stuck out on that side, and it had been that way ever since, for 9 years. The last year or so, I learned about pelvic floor physical therapy, and I thought, oh, that sounds really cool for people who have like urinary incontinence or like severe bladder prolapse or, rectal prolapse or anything like that. I thought, maybe that's really helpful for them, but I never really thought about going for myself. When I was done having kids, I decided to go for an evaluation to see if I still needed surgery. I saw a midwife and she said, this isn't really my area of expertise, but she said, it might be worth seeing an OB for. But since becoming a doula, I've been a lot more open-minded to alternative measures. And so I decided to go ahead and check out a pelvic floor physical therapist and just see what she thought, just get her opinion. So,
I want to show you something.
Okay, just a minute. So I went and I visited Betty at Reborn Pelvic Health and Wellness and had an evaluation. At the end of the evaluation, she said, all of this is very manageable. She said, I don't want to make any promises yet, but I do feel like these are things that we can treat here. And I was like, all the things? And she said, yeah, I think so. She told me her prices and my eyeballs kind of popped out of my head a little bit. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know if this is worth it. I don't know if I can afford this, especially right now. And anyway, so Gavin and I went home and talked about it, and he just said, surgery would be a lot more expensive. So let's just try it. And if it doesn't work, if it's not really helpful, then we'll stop. And I said, that's reasonable. The cool thing too about physical therapy is that it's not like an ongoing thing that you have to do for the rest of your life or for months and months and months, for years and years. It usually does take months or at least several weeks. But the cool thing is, and one thing that my therapist always says is that, usually $1,000 to $2,000 can resolve your problems. And I was pretty skeptical until after I had my first few visits. Pretty quickly, my body responded to the therapy, and I was amazed to see. Just a minute. I was amazed to see that it was making a difference just in my pelvic floor, and I was like, this is cool. I wasn't having huge symptoms, but I was like, that's nice. And then I mentioned my rib, and I said, hey, this has been bothering me. I don't know if there's anything you can do about it. And she said, well, let's take a look. She introduced me to dry needling, which sounds horrible and is really not bad. It can be intense, but it is so effective. So she put some needles in a few different places, and what it does is just stimulates the muscle belly. And it helps send signals to it to tell it it's okay to relax, basically. And so I did that, and after 2 visits, my rib that's been out for 9 years went back, and I was like, what? Okay, well, so that's mostly cosmetic, but I didn't realize how many other things were connected to that section of muscles. Anyway, fast forward, and this is where we're delving into the more TMI stuff, but because of my endometriosis, I always had extremely painful periods, like debilitating, lying on the couch in fetal position periods. I went to see her on the second day of my period, and I was like, hey, like things are really tender, just, you know, just so you know, and I didn't have any very high expectations. She discovered that my cervix was being pushed to one side, and that some things were off, and she did some very gentle adjustments and stretches that helped release that tension. I was sore, partly for that day, and you know, a lot more sore in the evening. But guys, this morning I woke up and I'm not in pain. I am having a full-blown period, and I am running around chasing my kids, doing the laundry, and feeling completely normal. And I don't even know how to explain it other than this stuff works, guys. I had accepted that periods are painful, just like I accepted that birth was painful before I had my first. And now I know periods don't have to hurt, even if you have endometriosis and other dysfunctions like that. I didn't believe it, but now, like, I'm a believer. So I just wanted to tell you guys this, because if any of you are experiencing urinary or bowel incontinence issues or problems or pains, if you are experiencing issues with your ribs or your thighs or your hips or anything in that area, go see a pelvic floor physical therapist. It will change your life. I'm not exaggerating. I hope you guys will take this seriously, because, you know, if you're looking for a sign that it's worth the money, it's worth the time, that it's going to be effective, here's your sign. I saw Pelvic Health and Wellness. They have a few different locations. They're actually just opening one in Lehigh, which I'm super excited about. And they have a couple locations in Salt Lake City. Anyway, if you're curious, if you have questions, please feel free to hit me up. You can drop questions in this thread, or you're welcome to send me a private message if you don't want to post publicly. But anyway, I will talk about this all day if you want, but I will stop now. Anyway, I hope you're all having a Merry Christmas, and thanks for listening.